How about that from the Netherlands? Considered minnows this time. They've pushed South Africa in the second half of this 43-over innings. Looks like the Netherlands orange shines brighter under the evening light of the beautiful Dharamshala. Two beautiful gentlemen on the show, Cricbuzz Live. That's what the scorecard looks like. 245 for 8th, the Netherlands, well, led by Scott Edwards, the captain, who came in at number 7. I think it was 78 not out of 69. Roelof van der Merwe hit an entertaining 29 runs as well. Aryan, the couple of sixes of the fast bowlers gives him 23 not out of the 9 deliveries. We shall talk about where the South Africans went wrong. Well, they need to score 246 to register their third win at the 2023 Men's Cricket World Cup. Gentlemen, did we see this coming?
Didn't see the finish coming, but they were just positive. And as soon as they became positive, the South Africans were put under pressure. And they lost their length a little bit, didn't execute the Yorkers at the back end. The slower balls went awry. And it was that little sort of partnership, because Logan van Beek was quite slow. Yep. Pedestrian, in fact, in that little partnership with Edwards. But as soon as van der Merwe came out, got the ball rolling with a couple of lusty blows, and then Aryan Dutt at the end. I think they scored 52 off 29 or 28 balls between them. And that's what propelled, along with the skipper, that's exactly what propelled them towards the back end. That partnership there was exceptional.
Yep. Joy, they were 112 for 6 when Teja Nidamanuru got out. And all of us thought, all right, guys, time for an early finish. Maybe we can have dinner.
Yeah, I'll say even slightly further back, you know, when Van Beek gets out, 140 for 7, you know, and at that point, they just look on, you know, there's Charles Dickens wrote a wonderful book called A Tale of Two Cities. This is a tale of 2 innings.
Yep.
So they're 2 innings in one, completely different. And you have a look at it, 63 runs scored in the last 5 overs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absolutely amazing. They smashed it towards the end. And I think this is something that tells you that if you take the attack to the South Africans, 8.10, 13.6, just look at where they've come. They've had a limp performance up front. It'll put you to sleep, you know. It could literally put you to sleep. Yeah. But after that, look what they do. And I think this is what they did so well. The belief in themselves, this is what they had during the qualifiers. This is what got them to this tournament without 5 top players. Yep. Suddenly they switched it on, and I think it takes one spark. But the interesting thing for me is not just how they played. It's what happened to the South Africans when somebody suddenly counterattacked. Yeah. So far, you've seen the South Africans always on top. This is the first time that suddenly somebody attacked and they didn't know where to go.
123 in the last 13 overs. Yeah. Did they not expect this? Did they not see this coming? Did they take the foot off the gas?
They wouldn't have, but you can't underestimate these sides. I mean, they've got through qualifying for a reason. Because they're a good, you know, the West Indies are left behind. A team that we have admired for so many years. Okay, they're not quite as good as they once were, but they've been left behind. They were beaten by this Dutch side. So you can't underestimate any of these teams. You just have to make sure you stick with it. Did they take their foot off? Were they made to by a little bit of aggression? I think that would be more the point. I think what the Dutch did was started to show a little bit more aggression. Post that Van Beek wicket, you saw van der Merwe just be a little bit more, and he's that type of character. Yeah. Roelof van der Merwe is an aggressive character by nature. He wants the fight. He wants to be in that fight all the time. And as soon as he started to play a couple of shots, they weren't all out of the middle of the bat, granted, but it actually put the bowlers under pressure, and then they found a way to, you know, to post what looks like a really good score.
Yep, it was that partnership of 64 between Edwards and van der Merwe that really gave them the fillip they needed. Scott Edwards, clearly the man that was part of 4 partnerships, one with Nidamanuru, then with Van Beek, then with van der Merwe, and towards the end with Aryan Dutt, 41 of 19. Just goes to show how crucial Scott Edwards is. 78 not out. Is he batting too low?
I think you can make a case for him batting too low. Because given his performance, I mean, this is the man who in the qualifiers scored 314 runs. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the top 20 scores in the history of a tournament by a wicketkeeper. And for him not to, after that, you know, look at this performance. And his strike rate was below 80. And he brings it up to 113. Absolutely clean hitting towards the end. Yeah. Looked really, really good. And I think it's not that he looked as if he was hitting it hard, but it wasn't slog, you know. It wasn't a complete slog. It was technically, it was not that bad at all. And you have to say that, why is he batting at 7? You have to ask yourself that question because, you know, today he got the support of other partners. But had he got on earlier as well, things could have been different. This could have been a 280, 290 total, and South Africans could have been really under the pump.
Yes, they call him the sweepologist, and for good reason as well.
Yeah, he got, well, the nickname actually belongs to a guy called Alex Ross.
Yeah.
And Alex Ross spent a lot of time with Scott Edwards in Melbourne and at South Australia as well. Alex Ross is the son of Ashley Ross, who was in New Zealand and coached the New Zealand, assistant coach of the New Zealand side. Spent a lot of time in Christchurch at a young age. He moved there at a very young age with his dad. Played hockey in the early days, Alex Ross did. And he became the sweepologist because of all the reverses and away you go. And then
From
he
hockey?
taught, from hockey. And then he taught Scott Edwards along the way. So Scott Edwards credits a lot of time with Alex Ross. I think they played together in the Netherlands, in the top classer, in the Netherlands, in the first division cricket there. And then, he went from there. So as we've always said, though, and we say it time and time again on the show, wicket keepers love to sweep, and they read spinners better than most, and that's exactly what he does.
While you were talking, a law has just been passed at Cricbuzz by the bosses. They've just told me Simon Doull is not allowed to send in entries for Joy Factor.
No, the point is...
Not allowed, can't be.
He's generating questions for Joy Factor. That's the point. He's generating questions for Joy Factor.
His agenda is very clear.
But Ashley Ross, I mean, I was in and around New Zealand cricket when Ashley Ross was there. He was a real outside-the-box thinker. And I think that's probably where Alex's son gets it from as well. He had some funky ideas, and some of them were ridiculous, but a lot of them were just maybe forward-thinking. And then he obviously taught his son that, and his son, you'll see his son playing the Big Bash quite a lot for the Strikers, I think he's at now. But yeah, he's just, obviously that's rubbed off on Edwards, and away you go. But it just shows you that when you get involved in these franchises and when overseas players turn up in other teams, you can learn. And as long as you've got a keen ear and you want to learn, you'll certainly get the job done. And that's exactly what Scott Edwards is benefiting from now.
It's amazing how when you don't enjoy the spotlight, you're playing far away when there's hardly any coverage, no one knows nothing about you, and you work on a certain aspect of your game, and for it to come good on this big stage is such a fascinating story.
No, absolutely a fascinating story, and the ability to be able to come here and play this game. I mean, this qualifies. When they've got through, they would have wondered that are we good enough out here? And today they've just substantially proved that the moment they started believing in themselves, they were good enough.
Yeah.
Till then they struggled. Suddenly it took one roll-off to turn around and said, you know what, I'm going to have a whack. And perhaps this is the right ground to do it on, because the South Africans were a bit wayward. It's altitude, you get a bit of an edge, the ball's going to fly. It's just the kind of ground that, if you light a spark, it could become a fire.
What are South Africa thinking right now? Would this hurt their pride, saying, we allowed them to get away with the number of runs they did towards the end? Is there some confusion? Are they worried? Are they anxious? They've got to chase at 5.7. Because remember, they've got a few big games coming up.
Yeah, look, it's not a discussion for now. The discussion now in that dressing room is, let's go out there, let's get these runs, let's knock the score off, and then we will talk about our bowling later in a team meeting, in a bowlers meeting. So that's not a discussion you would like to be having now. What you want is the bowlers to be going and saying, boys, this is a really good surface. We need to go out there and knock these off, encouraging the batters, getting the job done. Ngidi was expensive, which is, he was brilliant in the previous game. Rabada ended up expensive. He started really well, remember?
18 in his first five.
Yes.
So
then he just disappeared.
so he's gone sort of left field. Maharaj, I mean, we talked about him the other night. How good has he been? And on a surface that didn't offer a huge amount of turn and a ground that is quite small at altitude where the ball flies, he's been the pick of the bowlers.
Rabada wasn't brought on between the 16th and the 30th. Did they miss a trick there? Should they have brought him in early to finish off the rest of the batting?
I think definitely. I mean, we were discussing it at the com box that, bring on your best bowler, get him a chance to get some wickets out there. As it turned out, the match turned. When they did get the wicket, Dimaway walked out and changed it. So who knows, had he come on and they'd taken the wicket early, Dimaway, they might have got 280. Yep. But no, I mean, that's to one side. I'd say that definitely I think they missed a trick by not bringing Rabada on. I feel they didn't press, again, what we were talking about, teams allowing other teams to escape. You have your your boot on their neck, throat. You allowed them to wriggle out, and they really hurt you towards the end.
And the other thing is, I mean, we talked about Coetzee. We thought he would come in, but I'll go back to my point. Pick your best 5 bowlers. Don't always just pick a seamer for the sake of picking a seamer. And if they'd stuck with Shamsi, maybe he might have bamboozled them a little bit more. Maybe he might have been tougher to play, because it turned out that Maharaj was one of the tougher ones to play for them.
And the pace of Kodze worked as well. The other number on this scorecard that will trouble Rory Kleinfeldt, the bowling coach of South Africa, is 21 wides, 1 no ball. It's not a one-off. It's happened in every game South Africa have played at this World Cup.
Yeah, they've been really poor, haven't they? 20, 17 and 32. That's just not good enough for a... I mean, I understood if we go back to 1999 and the World Cup in England with the Duke ball, there was a lot of wides and no balls, you know, all over the show, because it swung everywhere. This ball is not swinging all over the place. Yep. This ball is staying relatively straight. There's a minimal amount of swing. So that will concern them more than anything. They really need to tidy up on that front, because you're giving away an average of 17, 18 extras a game in wides. I mean, that's 3 overs almost. You're bowling almost 3 overs extra to the opposition, which at a decent run rate gives them 15 to 20 runs. Yep. So you can't afford to be doing that.
On team selection, is there a lesson for the other teams? Do you pick your best lineup, or do you overthink the conditions because it was overcast, it rained a little bit, rain curtailed game, maybe that's why they went in with just 1 spinner and 4 pacers? Do you do that, Joy, or do you say, I'm going to go in with bowlers that I believe can trouble the opposition? A lesser fancied, lesser experienced team like Netherlands?
I think it depends from team to team. But I think here they definitely played the ground rather than their best 11. Yeah. I mean, he's been talking about it from the very beginning. Simon's been saying that, you know, Shamsi is not something an associate country would see on a regular basis, somebody of his quality bowling. I mean, they might have seen Noor Ahmed, but there are not too many of those floating around. So that's the basic point that he was making. And I think, look, as I said, team selection is a funny thing. The wide variety of circumstance. Moment it started raining, they would have thought that, you know, gripping is a problem. But yeah, I think they left something. Probably on hindsight, perhaps Shamsi would have been a better solution out.
Is it something that can be held against the captain, or is it a gut sometimes you go with the call, right?
I think coaches, I mean, that'll be discussed prior to, probably selected last night before today. Coaches will have seen something. Look, the other thing about Shamsi to me is he's a guy that needs bowling. Like Ish Sodhi for New Zealand. If New Zealand decide to bring Ish Sodhi into the tournament late in the piece, I don't see him doing all that well. First up, he's a guy that needs confidence, and Shamsi's no different. He needs overs under his belt. So once you pick him, just keep picking him, and it'll be okay, and he'll get better through the tournament. That's the hard part for South Africa now. And I mean, Coetzee was a little bit all over the place. To be in fairness, he was a little bit all over the place today.
Yes, well, your friend Rantin Deshkate has some company at the top. 50 plus scores now for Scott Edwards as well. So clearly growing in reputation, 27 years old, could serve his country for a few more years. He's growing in reputation, isn't he?
He looked a class act. He looked a class act the way when he decided to go after the bowling. One thing that went through your head was, why wasn't he doing this before? I mean, when he was batting with Van Beek, he was looking a different player. The moment Van der Merwe pressed on the accelerator, he looked a different player, and he looked capable. He had in his book. There's one which he smashed through cover, which was absolutely brilliant. And you look at that player and you say he's a quality player. And that's the kind of, you know, you look at him, again, we go back to that point, why is he batting at 7? Yeah. And a batsman of that quality, why is he batting at 7? Yeah. He should be batting up front, and I think they should be moving him up front. Because, look, they have a lot of batting, because associate nations tend to have that, you know, batsmen who are also bowlers who do everything. So you can bat him up front, and you need to, because, you know, exactly what he's saying. One upset, what do you hope for? One maybe upset, and you look around and you say that, you know, can I beat Afghanistan? Do I have a chance against Bangladesh? Do I have a chance against Sri Lanka given their current form? You know, those are the games you're trying to pick.
You're not going to get better unless you actually push yourself. And this is the key with all of these nations ranked sort of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I keep saying it. Unless you push yourself and test yourself, you don't know your limits. You don't know how good you can be. So don't ever go out there and be timid. You know, we see it time and time again. The lesser nations, and I say that with all due respect, they generally always opt to bowl first because they don't want to be embarrassed against the top tier sides. They don't want to be embarrassed by being bowled out. Yeah. And they opt to bowl on great wickets, and then the opposition put 350, 400 on the board. And it happens all the time. T20 World Cups, 50 over World Cups, I've seen it so often on great batting surfaces. We'll have a bowl because we're too scared to go out there and bat because we don't want to get bowled out cheaply and be embarrassed. So just stop it. Just get out there. take a chance because you do not know what will happen.
Yep. Well, I suppose newer teams will take a while to understand the resources they have and how best to use them. Were you surprised that they sent in Sybren Engelbrecht at number 5?
Well, he's there as a batter who bowls a little bit, not much. I mean, I think that's his role. I would have probably. I think in an ideal world, Edwards would bat 5 for me in that side.
Yep.
Then Engelbrecht and Niramanuru after him. That would be the way I would look at that Dutch lineup. And I think Scott Edwards has batted 4, 5, 6 most of his career. I think 7,
even in the qualifiers.
7's a bit lower than I've seen him of late. I'm not sure the reasoning behind it. Maybe they saw something in the fact that he plays the short ball generally pretty well and likes to take it on. I think it brought about his wicket in the end, but he does like to take the short ball on. So maybe that's the reason for it.
Remember, it's a rain-curtailed game, 43 overs aside, South Africa needing 246, which is about 5.7 in over. You reckon de Kock will be a touch, not nervous, but a touch jittery going into bat?
I don't know. Look, I think they'll say this is a small ground. You get a good start, and what Netherlands will say, a couple of wickets, and doubts will start to creep in. So it's a mind game right now at this point, and that's what, I was just thinking about it. Roelof van der Merwe spent in his entire career 26 international matches for South Africa as a backup to one certain Jacques Kallis. I mean, if you have Jacques Kallis as the all-rounder in the team, your chances of playing are that. So he sat out there, waited for his chances patiently. Whenever he got his chances, he did well. But he'd be turning around and saying, I've played with these guys. They're not that good. You don't need to be scared of them. And I think that's what he's done.
Yeah.
His innings, forget about what he did with the bat. It was the belief that he gave that unit. Suddenly saying, we can take these guys on. And look what happens when we take them on. They flinch. They take a step back. And I think that's the momentum that they'll carry into it. If they bowl the same way, I'd like them to play with their bowling. Don't go for settled plans. Try and upset the South African rhythm. Get in a spinner maybe up front. Let's see what de Kock does with it.
Which they will with Aryan Dutt, who opens the innings. So.
Yeah, and teams have done that a lot against Quinton de Kock. It's the one thing New Zealand used to think that New Zealand would do it often against Quinton de Kock. They felt that he just wasn't as comfortable facing right arm finger spin, right arm off spin. So I imagine that Dutt has to open. He has to open the bowling, particularly if it's going to get a little damper, if the dew comes later on. So just get him up front. But also remember, Quinny's chasing down, Kumar Sangakkara from 15, Rohit from 19. He'll want 5 centuries.
Well, he's got 2.
He's got 2 out of 2.
Yes, before this World Cup started, he had no hundreds in the 17 World Cup innings he had played. 2 in the first 2. Looks like he's sort of set the tone for South Africa, and that seems to have rubbed off on their bowling as well today. He needs to to win big in order to ensure that they go top of the table with a decent win.
I mean, they'll go on top of the table. If they win, they'll go on top of the table anyway. Yeah. Any win will take them to the top of the table. But I think, that's the thing. This is the first time they've been seriously challenged. Because remember, they were batting up front, they put up 400 runs. That's the point. Now they're suddenly under a bit of pressure.
Yeah.
This batting has not been under pressure. And I'd like to see what happens if a couple of wickets fall, because that will be the true test to the South African team. And again, South Africa, when they look good, they look really good. But when they start to... And if Netherlands, as Wasim Akram would often say, if they smell the ghost, if they can smell the biryani, there's a little sniff of opportunity, things could be very different.
Well, he hit 100 against Australia, then one against Sri Lanka. Quinton de Kock and his batting is not all crash bang wallop. He's offered a lot of variety. He's ready to take singles as well. So he's got multiple gears in this format.
He has got multiple gears. And I think he's another one that, deciding to retire from this format of the game, he's in a very good place in his life. He's quite comfortable. You look at that knock against Australia, the singles, a big thing, rotates the strike really well. And if you get anywhere near that leg stump, anywhere near his pads, he just whips you over backward square or square leg with ease. He is a quality player. And as I say, I think he's really comfortable in his life. And this is his time. He knows this is his last World Cup, last 50 over World Cup. He wants to put on a show. He's very relaxed and seems quite calm about it all. So, don't be surprised if he rattles off another one.
Well, you know what? If QDK doesn't get you, Van der Dussen will get you. If he doesn't, there's also Aiden Markram at number 4. How explosive has that man been? Fastest 100 in World Cup history, wasn't it?
Absolutely sensational. And the way he batted, That's the point. I mean, Aiden Markram, ever since his under-19 days, where he was a top scorer, player of the tournament, I remember, and he was always marked as a future South African player and a future South African captain. From then on, he's been looked on, and perhaps in the beginning, in the first few years, he hasn't delivered as much as they'd expect him to do. But now he's just a class player, and again, 3-format player. A proper 3-format player gives you everything.
Has he announced his arrival at the World Cup with that 100?
Absolutely, absolutely. Not only that, again, I go back to the point I made earlier that all of these players that are standing up for South Africa with the bat and that will stand up have IPL experience now and good amounts of experience in Indian conditions, not only with South Africa, but with franchise teams. And those numbers are exceptional. He is a really talented player, and he's a great thinker of the game. He's a terrific guy. He's got great leadership skills as well. And announced himself on this World Cup, beating. I mean, it took a long time for anyone to beat Kevin O'Brien's record, didn't it?
Yes.
Against England. And that second 50 was something ridiculous. Yep. I think he was it 34 balls he was his first 50? I think it was 34 balls his first 50.
And
so it was like 14 or 15 balls for his second 50. It was just crazy hitting.
He's also telling the other South Africans how to bat against spin. He's equally effective against both.
Yeah, he knows. But that's what I'm saying. Other than de Kock up front, who's a bit, as I said, vulnerable to that LB or the bowled up front, the rest of them are all great, good players of spin. Yeah. They're very decent players.
Well, the batting has carried South Africa through. But just if we could just pull up their 11 to see if there is any scope for any kind of experimentation with that batting order. Maybe look at giving David Miller some game time. Would you look at sending him higher up or just stick to 1, 2, 3, 4 as they are?
He's their Maxwell. He's the guy they want to finish the game off. I don't see that order changing at all. Klaasen, Markram are the two probably better players of spin. Yep. So they want those guys through the middle. Miller can knock the spinners out of any park. And Jansen's a clean hitter as well. You didn't quite see it the other night from him, but I don't see any changes. I don't want South Africa to tinker. It's worked. It's worked. The moment they start to tinker is when they've lost World Cups and lost games and their sort of campaign has gone off the rails. So just don't broke it. It's not, don't fix it. It's not broke.
Yep. Well, Netherlands will have their tails up with the kind of momentum they got towards the end of that batting innings with that final flourish. The captain was there, and so was Aryan Dutt. I'm sure they must be feeling really, really good right now. Their bowling plan, if we could pull up their 11, and we can talk about how they should be bowling. Aryan Dutt, remember, has been opening the bowling for the Netherlands. Logan van Beek, Simon, for you, the key man.
Yeah, back into the side if he's fit. Van Meckeren, though, I think, Joy, he's the one. Between Van Meckeren and Van der Merwe, they are the aggressive ones. Yeah. And that's exactly what I want to see from the Netherlands.
Yeah, they need to go and attack them. And I think that's what they're going to do. You're going to get a little Baz de Leede will going to come in the middle. He's the one who's always taken wickets for them. But up front, they need wickets up front for this to work. Because if the South Africans reach the first 10, 12 overs, 50, 60, don't lose any wickets, it could be a very different game.
Baz de Leede has been their best bowler in the tournament. We saw a shocker, a huge upset on Sunday. Can this man, work his magic and give us another one, Simon?
Yeah, through the middle, I think he'll be used more often. Van Beek has often opened the bowling, and Baz de Leede has come in that middle, sort of after maybe 10, 11, 12 overs. They give him a little bit more protection after the power play is up because he tries to bowl quick. And that's what I like about him. He wants to bowl quick. He wants to get the ball up around the helmet, the badge. He's got changes of pace. And again, if he can come with that aggression when South Africa are 2 down and maybe ruffle some feathers, in that kind of, it makes his job a little bit better, a little bit easier. But they're going to need, I think they're going to need wickets up front to even threaten the South African lineup.
Right. We've ordered some watermelon feta cheese salad. Do we have an appetite for another surprise result?
I mean, this is the right time in the tournament to have, and you'd like to see, he upsets are something that really set the tournament because upsets are disproportionate in the influence they have in countries. Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at what happens, England looking at something and wondering, okay, it's fine, it's something. It wouldn't even be noticed that much in England. But all of Afghanistan would have been talking about this match. And I think if the Netherlands win, it would really, again, light up this tournament.
And it'll give us new things to talk about when Netherlands play Sri Lanka. We're always very clear about our own agendas. We're hoping for a great second half of the game. I think we're done with what we had to on Cricbuzz Live. Before we say goodbye, predictions 10 overs.
10 overs, relatively conservative, 57.
I was also going conservative, so I'll go 46.
75.
Whee!
Oh, he clearly thinks
South
Peacock's
Africa.
going to tee off.
I like QDK. I like Bavuma as well because he's a short guy. We're done on Cricbuzz Live. We'll see you at the 15 over mark on Cricbuzz Combox. Bye for now.